I don't know.
The agenda. The whole thing's the agenda. You got a 24-hour meeting. Right. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so. Or. Those officers. Okay, how do you get that question? So I have just. Well, we did the meeting, but. So. But we were back because we were here.
All right, we are ready to text right now. Mic is on. No, hang on 2 seconds. Sorry. I'll turn off. Oh, and just so everyone knows, we tested that and it worked. Yeah, I believe you. They told me I was on Zoom, it's great.
Good thing we get a paper cover.
Right. Okay, well, that's something fun. All right, I think we are ready to go. Thank you all for your patience as we took care of some technical difficulties. We are on to public comment, and I would like to invite David McCubbin up with.
My name is Vicki McCubbin. I live on Cessna Street in Independence. I'm the spouse of a Vietnam veteran, and I am one of among many volunteers serving on the committee for the Wall That Heals Vietnam Memorial that will be in Independence September 18th through 21st, just 4 short months away. Independence will have many visitors coming to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, give the welcome home to veterans who didn't receive one, and learn more about America's history during this turbulent time. With Memorial Day approaching, I thought this meeting would be a fitting time to thank the many volunteers, including those within the city staff, council, who have volunteered to help with this event. Independence has an amazing staff, and they are always prepared to step up and do what is asked of them and more. So thank you. I also want to make an appeal to the community and urge them to help and support this event with their time or donation. The event will be open 24 hours a day, and volunteers are needed to assist with parking cars, helping with school tours, guiding visitors, and assistance at the education center, and training will be provided. Signing up to help or donate is easy. Go to the City of Independence website, click on Community, then Events and Entertainment, and there is a link to the Wall That Heals website. I want to close with a quotation from the website. Bringing the Wall That Heals to our community relies on those who step up to help, whether through hands-on support, financial contributions, or community partnership. Every effort honors our Vietnam veterans and preserves their stories. Events like this require teamwork and resources to provide a meaningful experience. Your involvement creates a space for healing, reflection, and tribute, ensuring this powerful memorial reaches as many people as possible. Since the end of the Vietnam War, thousands of veterans have suffered the lasting effects of Agent Orange exposure, PTSD, and other service-related illnesses. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund believes that all who served in Vietnam deserve to be honored and remembered. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going on to reports and presentations. I just have a short one tonight, just one, we have a lot that we are celebrating. We dedicated the life jacket station yesterday down at the park, and thank you for everyone who's able to attend that. This last weekend, we also had the Touch a Truck event, which was hosted by the City of Independence with their partner Sedcor. It was also a benefit for the Ellen Crane Food Bank, and every year that gets bigger, and we get a lot of very positive feedback from the community on that. We also had Public Service Recognition Week to recognize the hardworking staff members that we have here at City Hall, and it's also National Police Week this week. So lots going on. It's also budget season, so I think we're all anxious for that to be wrapped up. We're getting kind of in the final stretch, we hope. And then we also, several of us were able to attend the League of Oregon Cities President's Roundtable here last week, which was also very informative. And with that, I will pass it off for the City Council liaison reports. And first up, we have the library board.
Hey there, so I did not attend the last meeting for the library, and so I will postpone my briefing till next month.
All right, Councilor Morton for the museum board.
And the museum board meets again tomorrow, so I don't at this point have anything substantive to report.
All right, thank you. And for the continuum of care, Councilor Gordon.
First off, I want to note that this week is National Police Week too. There have been 3 meetings in the last 4 weeks of the continuum of care. And we have one more scheduled for the end of the month. The first meeting was an emergency meeting to terminate a contractor employee because it seemed, or it was, more efficient to have a staff member take over those responsibilities. We also had a meeting to make the interim executive director permanent. And the last meeting we had was related to the PIT count, the point in time count of homeless individuals in our communities. There will be a formal report coming out, and I will make sure that all of council gets a copy of that, but just just to hit some of the high notes, this is Marion and Polk County, rural Polk County, not including West Salem. The number of people in shelter rose to 1,213, it's a 38% increase from 2024. We've made a lot of headway in getting these folks in housing after they've been in some kind of transitional shelter. But the numbers have come up. There's something like 14% more people who are homeless for the first time this year. So next meeting is a budget meeting, and then I'll get that report out to council of the city as soon as it comes out.
Thank you. And then next up is our city manager, Kenilworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 3 quick updates because we do have a long meeting. First, the trustees of the Brainerd Charitable Trust have awarded funding in the amount of $8,000 to our museum. This will help fund the museum intern and support updates to our military exhibit in conjunction with the wall that feels coming to Independence. And I want to congratulate Amy Christensen on her hard work getting that done. So thank you, Amy. Also grants, I'm going to focus on grants tonight. As you know, this has been a focus for us as our fiscal situation has worsened. And so I'm always happy to let you know we have grant awards. The next grant award is $34,539. That actually went to the Missing Middle Housing Fund. And it's a collaborative project for the installation of a zoning navigation tool to support housing development planning. The system was installed in Yamaha County just after I left Yamaha County, as a matter of fact, and it's been used successfully. So the goal is to make it easier for residential, commercial, and industrial developers, builders, and purchasers to access information on property in the collaborating cities of Independence, Monmouth, and Falls City. This will result in efficiencies in our planning departments and ease of use by our citizens and our customers. So we're extremely excited by that. And I saved the best for last. So we received a $100,000 grant to complete a topographic pre-design survey, geotechnical investigation, and wetland and waterway delineation to design and construct a new wastewater pump station, Ash Creek Pump Station. And I have to say, thank you so much to Marshall, Sean, and Gerald for their work.
Thank you, and now moving on to unfinished business. First up, we have Council Bill 2025-04 to annex and designate 8.9 acres at 6675 Carmel Road. And I'll hand it over to staff.
Yes, so this was, I believe it was the second annexation that you considered last meeting. It was the one of the actual property. Sort of, if you drove down 6, you would see an 8.9 acre parcel sort of toward the end of the road. There is a map of it in your packet, specifically on page 21 or 22, Myra. You can see there it is, right toward the south end of the community. At that last meeting, you folks passed a first reading of Ordinance 1624 to approve that annexation. We had the public hearing at the last meeting. The ordinance was read the first time, but it was approved 5-1, not unanimously, so it is back before you for a second reading tonight. Are there any questions from me?
So just to clarify, that is the property owner's requested annexation?
That's exactly right. Yep, it's exactly right, and also we are proposing to annex the 50-foot right of way directly to the north, which is owned by the city. The property owner came in, and just to draw that boundary in a way that made a little more sense, we felt to be that 50-foot right of way made sense.
I don't see any public comment here, but has there been any public comment from the community over this annexation?
We did have a public hearing at the last meeting, and so there was public comment at that last meeting. One of the individuals stood up and said specifically that they would be monitoring the development of the site, including future subdivision applications, if you remember. I can't remember the extent of all the other comments if there were.
Further questions of our staff? This is an action item.
I move to read the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2025-04 for the second time by title only.
Second.
We have a first by Counselor Mark Lewis and a second by Counselor Morton. Questions? Roll call.
Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Morton,
Aye.
Counselor Mark Lewis,
Aye.
Counselor Boisvert,
Aye.
Counselor Roden, Counselor Source.
Motion passes. We need to move to adopt it.
I think I have to read the title of it. An ordinance declaring territory annexed to the city of Independence and amending the zoning map for portions of tax lot 200 and 201, map 8S 4W 33 as stating an effective date.
I move to adopt the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2025-04.
Second. The motion by Counselor Morton and a second by Counselor Core. Further discussion? Not roll call.
Counselor Source.
Aye.
Counselor Roden. Counselor Boisvert.
Aye.
Counselor Mark Lewis.
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Moore.
Aye. Thank you, motion passes.
So the council will pass and will be assigned ordinance number 1624.
Next up, under new business. The 7.1.
That was spread.
Sorry, yeah, jumping ahead. It's my second Monday. All right. This evening, we are reopening a public hearing on annexation number 2025-01 to consider annexation of certain rights of way into the city of Independence. The City Council will make a final decision based on the complete record, including the testimony received at tonight's public hearing. These proceedings will be recorded. This hearing will be held in accordance with the land use procedures required by the city and state of Oregon. This is a type 3 procedure. At the beginning of the public hearing tonight, staff will identify the applicable substantive criteria from the city's comprehensive plan and or state of Oregon statewide planning goals. For anyone wishing to speak, we are asking you to use the speaker cards that are provided. When called upon to speak, you must be recognized by the chair and you must state your name and address for the public record. Before we begin, does any councilor wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest in this matter? All right, hearing none, I will now open the continued public hearing for AX 2025-01, annexation of certain rights of way into the city of Independence. The date is May 13th, 2025, and the time is 6:59 p.m. My name is Kate Switzer, and I'm the chairperson for this hearing. On April 8th, 2025, the City Council held a public hearing on AX 2025-01 for the purpose of reviewing this annexation. Council heard the staff report and testimony from citizens. Upon conclusion of the testimony, the council continued the hearing until tonight and left the record open. This hearing is being recorded. This evening provides an opportunity for the council to hear more about the proposed annexation. We will first hear again from staff to remind us of applicable criteria for this decision and respond to the testimony and questions proposed on April 8th. Then we will hear from interested parties. Please address all comments towards new evidence, arguments, or testimony received since the April 8th hearing. Interested party testimony will be presented A, first by those in favor of the proposal, B, then by those with neutral comments, and C, finally by those opposed to this annexation proposal. At the close of tonight's hearing and record, the council may deliberate and decide this matter based upon all relevant written and oral testimony provided as part of the record today. May we please have the staff report?
Sure, so hi there, everybody, so as you will remember from the last meeting, this annexation deals specifically with the annexation of rights of way for Vallis Road, Hoffman Road, and a portion of the old 6th Street, which is just east of the existing 6th Street. At the last meeting, I went through the staff report and I noted the relevant criteria that apply to this application, including the Oregon State planning goals. the Oregon the Independence Comprehensive Plan, the Independence Development Code, specifically subchapters 11, 12, and 14. Rather than going through my staff report again, at that, I prefer just to address some of the things that were raised at the last meeting. At the last meeting, you specifically instructed staff to go back and look at 4 things. We did that, and that is included in my analysis of those things is included in page 67 of your packet, which is an addendum to the original staff report. 4 things that you had us look at were whether the proposal included a zone change, whether the road annexation would change the taxing of the neighboring properties, whether the annexation would create an island that could be annexed by the city, and whether Corvallis Road in particular would require additional right of way. My addendum addresses those things. In short, I'll just go through it real quick. The proposal includes a zone change, yes, because anytime you annex property from the county, it is going from a county zoning designation to a city zoning designation. It's kind of a weird thing because in some of the instances, we're not actually applying a zone, we're applying an undesignated zoning to the road, but right now it's currently zoned suburban residential in the county zoning designation, so it's a change. We're just changing it to an undesignated zone. That's how we designate the majority of the roads in the community. So yes, it's a zone change because it's an annexation and a zone change. It is therefore a type 3 application processed as we've done this. The change in taxes. A number of folks there was a person in the audience in particular that said that they had talked to the county and the county had said something about their taxes changing. I called the county assessor, Valerie Betuan, is that how to say it? And talked to her on April 14th. She assured me that any annexation of the road would not change the taxing of the neighboring properties. She said if there was confusion from her staff's perspective, that she was sorry for that.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? So they pay county taxes now, but when we annex it, they'll pay county and city taxes? Is that an additional tax?
No, they will not, their taxes will not change.
Okay.
It's contingent, the road would be annexed, the properties would continue to be county. And so they would continue to pay county taxes. There would be no additional city taxes because of the road being annexed. It's still county taxes. Another thing that we talked a lot about is the creation of an island. I went into a little, I had noted ORS 222.753 at the last meeting and noted how a road, if a road constituted 25% of the boundary of an island, you cannot use that 25% of a boundary, 25% or more of a boundary, you cannot use that road to annex an island. If you look at page 68 of the packet, we can sort of picture this just a little bit better. And it would be great if I had a laser pointer. You can see there's a yellow road. Oh, Myra, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So you can see there's a yellow road in the diagram. That yellow road is Corvallis Road. You can see if we take that yellow road and then use that to sort of form a portion of the boundary of specifically the area east of Corvallis Road, that would be roughly half a mile, right? The boundary, that whole boundary itself, I went ahead and measured it. It's something like 5,600 feet. Corvallis Road would be 45% of that boundary, right? As such, you cannot use that to force an island annexation, if that makes sense. Basically, the question was, if we annexed the road, could we then in the future come and force annexation of certain properties along the road? My answer based on this analysis is no, the road itself couldn't form more than 25% of that boundary, and it appears to me right now that that would be much more than 25% of that boundary, specifically east of Corvallis Road. The last question that you folks had for me was right-of-way widths. I included a little note about right-of-way widths in the staff report. Basically, our standards for a minor arterial, which Corvallis Road is 66 feet in width. The majority of the road right now is 60 feet in width. When a turn lane is necessary, 74 will be required. Now, how these work, as I tried to explain at the last meeting as well, we are not gonna come annex this road and then say, give us our 3 feet or give us our 7 feet of property. How this typically works is we annex the road, we have a 60-foot right of way. When people come in to develop subdivision, minor partition, whatever it might be, we say, perfect. Please provide us your 3 feet of that we're deficient of this right of way here. And so it's associated with the land use approval typically. The times when it's not, it's when we do a road project, at which point we might go out and acquire right away, but that would be through negotiations and all that sort of stuff. Basically, those are my responses to the 4 issues that you folks raised at the last meeting. Is there anything I should have said, Gerald? Do you have any questions for me?
Just to refresh my memory. We are annexing the road and the road only. We're not annexing property for any particular purpose.
That's exactly right. So, so you'll remember last time, and I should have said that, and I appreciate you giving me the question. This is specifically to annex the roadways, and the reason that we want to annex the roadways is specifically because it becomes easier for us to manage the roadways and to manage projects along roadways. It also becomes easier for the people who seek to develop along the road to actually get a permit. Right now, a good example is out on 13th Street. Our tonnage. The property came into the city. They dedicated a portion of their property to the city as part of a minor partition that they did. So all of a sudden, they have a portion of the road that's in the city limits and a portion of the road that's in the county. All of a sudden, improvements to that road become much more complicated for them because they're having to go through 2 approval processes to get those improvements done. We have a number of instances on 13th, on Talmadge, probably on the old Gun Club Road where that situation existed. And just to clean up the issue, we have elected to try and annex as much of the right of all of the right of way within the urban growth boundary to ensure that when people are seeking a permit, they're only dealing with one party.
But we're in no way, shape or form doing this so that somebody can develop the land. We're only concerned about public works and having access to that road, correct? If somebody were to develop that land, would they have to work with the county as well, since they're not part of the city? I realize they'd have to come and get a permit because they're building off a city road, but.
Right, so how that would work in the future is if a property, if a property along Corvallis Road decided to come into the city in the future, they would annex their property into the city. And then they would work specifically with us on the development along the road. And we would ensure, part of the complication comes from the fact that right now the county is required to use our standards to for the roadway. So essentially, they're trying to implement our standards for a development that's in our urban growth boundary. And we think essentially, let's just cut out the middle.
And there are concerns from the neighbors there that that's an area that floods quite a bit. So I know they have concerns about whether or not someone would be able to build there, or would want to build there. So I think we're made it clear that we only want the road, and we only want the road to make things easier for public works to deal with.
That's exactly right.
Hypothetically, what if one of the people who currently live on Corvallis Road wanted to come into the city? So we had one property that wanted to come into the city. How easy would it be for one property to be admitted into the city? And would that cause an effect for all of them to be dragged in?
No, so right now, you can kind of see it here, the boundary along Corvallis Road is very irregular, right? So if somebody, say right here, wanted to come into the city, they could not. Because they're not adjacent to city limits. Oh, potentially they could go this way to connect to city limits, but it's kind of convoluted. So the short answer to the question is no, it would not cause like a sequence of the annexations. You can see right here sort of what is happening with people doing one-off annexations. It's created an irregular boundary.
And we've just done that in the past where we don't like those irregular boundaries, and so we've kind of straightened things out. So I was just wondering. It was a hypothetical question.
Yes, we have irregular boundaries.
Right, Councilor Horn?
Yes, I had a couple of things. First of all, there are already city codes that are in place that govern these properties. And changing those city codes would be a big deal, and any property that would be potentially affected by it would have notification, opportunity to speak, have a hearing, the whole process. So it's not something that we can just go in and say, we're changing this code.
Right, exactly, and so I mentioned that last time, because I think, Michelle had said something about, if an island was created, they wouldn't have a voice in a future annexation of the property. That's just not true. Any annexation that happens will include a public hearing, and notice will go out for that public hearing. That being said, again, Corvallis Road itself could not be used as a justification for an island annexation.
So it then doesn't create an island on either side of it.
Well, I mean, potentially portions on the west side could be argued that, but I didn't measure anything on the west side. You would have to recalculate each of those properties to see how much. I should also say that you cannot do an island annexation if a property is not bound entirely by city. So things like this portion right here would not be subject to an island annexation because there's no city on this side of it, if that makes sense.
And then, if you were to develop the road out there and add turn lanes in and all of that, that would have to be coming under the transportation master plan. And again, there's a whole process for that, correct? And everybody would be notified.
Yeah, so the transportation system plan currently plans for that area.
Okay, and has there been a history at all of Polk County supplementing the cost of road maintenance for any of these dually owned or dually governed roads?
There aren't any dually owned roads.
Well, you have right of ways that are right away from Polk County and right away from the city of Independence on the same road.
Yes, and whenever they do maintenance, they try to coordinate that maintenance with the city of Independence or the city of London. They try to coordinate in advance for
Okay.
any overlays.
And if we do the maintenance that covers both of the right of ways, does the county send us funds for our work?
No, because it's not their road anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Ford?
I really appreciate the thorough detail, Fred, and I appreciate you reaching out to the assessor, but I would recommend to any of the homeowners to go visit the assessor and talk to her in particular and get this in writing, because I don't think we're really in a position to guarantee anything that Polk County says.
I just have a follow-up to what the other counselor asked. You pointed to the bottom area of land and said that it could not form an island, but the other three smaller areas would be surrounded on all sides on the west side by the city, so they could be easily annexed into the property, given on the question she asked in your follow-up.
Right, again, if the road was used as justification for the annexation of an island, that would require a public hearing process before you folks. I would say at this point, I haven't heard much desire from the city to go towards the annexation.
Questions of staff?
Actually, one more, sorry. So we did receive a letter from Sean and Michelle Lewis, and they did say if we move forward with this annexation, they would like the following inclusions. If we are to say that Polk County is going to not increase their taxes and we're not supposed to believe Polk County, it wouldn't hurt to put this letter in our record, right? So that it's a,
I think we don't believe Polk County, I just think you should be a responsible homeowner, get the answer yourself.
either way, she meant it wouldn't hurt to have this letter in there so that they could come back and at least use this letter to prove that we had no intent of raising their taxes.
I can see some wisdom in addressing what this person, these people's concerns are by using your report to the council, because it's very thorough and it explains that there are no additional taxes and no change in priority from anybody else.
And that letter does become part of the public record for this.
Right, but I just mean, maybe we should put this as an amendment to the change for annexation, so that this is a part of the actual. Just, you look confused.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
happy
sure
to.
that we have to,
Oh,
city manager, West, to see if we have the authority to do that.
I apologize, I was multitasking,
That's all right.
talking with staff.
Or,
From what I understand, there's a letter that came in and
right,
it's now becomes a part of the record.
right, but do we have the ability to attach that letter as part of the annexation? Or,
Annexation.
right,
The president is asking for a minimum 10-year exemption from any annexation requirement. Do we have the authority to do that?
but we're not annexing their property.
So,
so what I'm saying is it wouldn't hurt to add
So
this. as-
what letter are we looking at?
I'm not sure from a land use perspective, right? I think that's what we're trying to clarify from a land use perspective, if we're able to make that.
There are could be some issues, I would not recommend that you do that. In many ways, that would be, thank you, that would be similar to, trying to tie the hands of the future council. And that's
Paragraph 2 down.
usually frowned upon.
Paragraph 1, I'm sorry.
Again, it becomes part of the record. But it's not something that I would recommend.
If we say we're not gonna do it, then it doesn't hurt to just put it in writing, you just put it in with what we're saying, because then they don't have to call Polk County, because we've already just stated it, that they don't have to worry about it.
What if property owner requests annexation?
Well,
Well, I can't say you have to wait 10 years before you do that.
I'm sure we could make a rule, but I think if the people here now want a 10-year, at least a minimum 10-year grace period for current property owners, it wouldn't affect the current property owners unless we have new property owners come in, and it would give a sense of safety, reassurance, and at least financial projection for the people who live in these.
But we're not annexing the property, and the property is what's subject to taxation.
Correct. That's why I was recommending that anybody who has a concern about that, get a copy of Fred's report. Because it was very thorough and answered all of the questions, but I agree, we can't make policy that affects a council in our future.
Or makes property decisions.
So, and I had talked to Mr. Hopkins about it because he raised the same idea of the 10-year potential pause on property tax increases. Now, when we look at ORS 222.750, we can see it right there. When we look at that, it's talking about unincorporated territory surrounded by a city. This is specifically the island annexation. What I told Mr. Hopkins when I talked to him was this 10-year requirement could apply to that island if we were annexing the island, but we're not annexing the island, we're annexing the road. And so because of that, what I would argue is the 10-year is really not applicable in this case. That's something that could apply at the time of the annexation. But again, we could not use Corvallis Road as a justification for an island. And so really the whole that whole issue becomes mute, I would say.
But you cannot use Corvallis Road as a justification for an island on the east side.
That's
right?
correct.
But you put it
That's
on the
exactly
west
right.
side.
That's exactly right.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
Exactly right.
Any further questions of staff? All right, hearing none, we do have public testimony for tonight, so we wish to have the ones interested in the proposal. Please limit your comments and questions to 3 minutes in length, and remember to state your name and address for the board. First up, we have Rick Hopkins. You want to come forward?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for listening to me again. I have met with Mr. Evander, as he said, and everything's great on the east side of the road.
Can you please state your name and address for the record,
Okay.
please? Thank you.
Rick Hopkins, 6275 Corvallis Road.
Thank you.
And I might say with that, on the west side of Corvallis Road. And which certainly gives us concerns. And I believe you have a letter from me also, is that correct? So I'm not gonna read that and bore you. But I do have concerns on the west side for annexation. And I understand that right now, the only thing that's being considered is Corvallis Road. And I must say, and I just have to say, I don't know why it is necessary to annex Corvallis Road at all. I know, as my letter said, that we're gonna be in the city, I know, these days. I live in Independence, I used to be your fire chief, you know, in the area. I love a shop here and, you know, I know you guys and I appreciate you. But it's that $3,000 increase. And yes, I know that we will keep our county taxes the same as you are paying county taxes now. The reason that I would recommend is do something that would nail down where if I become, I'm only gonna speak for I, because I know there's probably some that are already gonna be islands on the west side. But I would like to see you do something that might have some teeth in the future that would say, yes, we will look at 222,755. And we will give you some time, to lean into this. I would also say, and I'm the one that, one of those that have properties, that could subdivide. If I were to subdivide that, I would expect that to immediately have to go into the city. Am I planning on doing that? Not now. But I'm not as young as I used to be, and we never know what's gonna happen, in the future. But, what I'd be asking is something that we can look at in the future. And I know a letter, in 8 years from now, or, let's say 5 years from now, some of you aren't gonna be here. And the council is gonna be bound by a letter, that we have now saying we would do that.
That's time here.
Okay, and thank you for your time. You have any questions?
Any questions for our speaker? All right, thank you. Next up, we have Michelle Lewis and Chumbles.
John and Michelle Lewis, 6240 Corvallis Road, and I'll turn it over to the boss.
I just want to thank you guys all for what you did, and especially last meeting where I really felt like there was some care, concern, and compassion for us. There was discussion regarding a letter that Freddie Bender actually offered to write to us residents, and it's sounding like that letter is no longer what is being recommended. And I just want to remind you guys of this. Again, it's just Corvallis Road in your guys' eyes. But before we left the evening, it was very clear that the city manager was grabbing her desk and said, it's all about Corvallis Road. And I really do believe that the systems, that the public works systems, whether it's water, getting water from one side over to the other, all depends on Corvallis Road. As you're looking at this map, when you guys were talking about the properties on the east side of Corvallis Road, what kind of you're not really hearing in clarity is the City of Independence actually owns the far east side of our property as well. So they own the west side of our property that live on the east side, and they own the east side of the property. So does it feel like we're being bottlenecked? Yes, it does feel like we're being bottlenecked. And again, the 6275 Corvallis Road, the City of Independence, different council a few years back forced an island annexation to a public hearing. And they're saying, oh, we needed Corvallis Road. So now here it is, Corvallis Road, different council saying, oh, no, this time it's just Corvallis Road. I want to reiterate that past practice is telling us that island was actually in the urban growth boundary designed for those properties to be annexed already, the ones that you see the zigzag on the west side. What I'm talking about is that along with the east side. So I get, and I really do respect, the Fred and what he's trying to say right now, and you guys, your care and concern. But my concern is, if there's not a letter stating that we had this hearing and that you guys, if moving forward along with Corvallis Road, you see the future potential of annexation or forced islands, that this city council dated on this 13th day of May is asking when that future council does do that they would allow a 10-year grace period for any forced annexation. Any property owners that want to go in willingly, let them. No, I'm not here for that, but if I'm still there, I would love for you guys to just say, hey, on this day, we see the potential of islands being created, and we want to do our due diligence to be as fair as possible to these Polk County residents, which I say without representation. And again, only because I can't vote for any county members or any county.
That's fine.
Thank you guys so much for all you do. Really appreciate it.
Next up, we have Phil Strong.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Phil Strong. My address is 233 Mountain Vista Avenue, Southeast Salem, Oregon, 97306. I'm here to go on record to opposing the annexation of Corvallis Road. And here's a few points. To be approved, the proposed annexation must be consistent with the goals and policies of city comprehensive plan. Under the urbanization section of the comprehensive plan, page 15, the goal states to provide for an orderly and efficient transition from rural to an urban land. Policy 1 also states, Independence shall not extend urban service beyond city boundaries. It is clear that the annexation of Corvallis Road south of the existing city limits is not consistent with this goal and policy. There are no properties that are annexed in that area, can be developed into urban density or served with urban services south of the existing city limits. Here's an important point. Since it is not financially prudent for the city to improve Corvallis Road or extend its public utilities beyond the properties in the southwest area of the urban growth boundary are annexed, the annexation request is not timely or provides an orderly or efficient transition from rural to urban land. Also, under chapter 13 of the transition system plan, which is part of the comprehensive plan, policy 2 on page 24 states, the city limits are expanded. Independence shall simultaneously annex land and county roads within the border in new annexed land. The annexation of Corvallis Road of the existing south of the existing city limits is clearly not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Only when the properties along the southern section of Corvallis Road are annexed should the city simultaneously annex adjacent right-of-way jurisdictions, not before. So what I read this to say is, you're saying you want just the road, but it's saying you're supposed to take the property. And that's what's got everybody upset. So I guess, is there an answer to, are you gonna take the property at the same time as the road? Does anyone have a question?
Thank you very much. And finally, last up, we have Eric Hill.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Thank you for the opportunity to come up here tonight. I guess it's crazy for me because the irony of all ironies.
State your name and address for the record. Procedural, I know, but.
Sure, we start the clock. Okay, Eric Hill, 6485 Corvallis Road. The biggest irony here is that my great great grandfather came here in 1847. I'm the 5th generation here of our family owning property. While we gave tons of property to this city over the years, and so much has been taken many times. Here we are, and that's what we're talking about again, is essentially taking more people's property. So, as Mrs. Lewis here kindly pointed out, you know, one of the best things to look at what the future is going to be is the past examples, right? And so we will be one of those islands there. Now, like Mr. Hopkins nicely asked, it doesn't seem to me very much to allow people to have a fair amount of time before things are going to be annexed, forced in, taxes are going to go up. We can't do what we want with that property anymore. It does become an island, and maybe it just gets taken, you know, like I say, that's happened before. I guess the other part that's kind of troubling is that when you look at your own transportation plan dated August of 21, it shows, if you look at the figure, that Corvallis Road has a functional classification plan there, that it's a major arterial. So I'm glad we have one record that's a minor arterial, because it continues to be glossed over that the right of way is going to extend. It will become wider. And the saddest part of all of this is what we heard in the first meeting was that we wanted to build this road to these higher, better standards, maybe sidewalks. So the real reason was because the water is going to go through there. And you know, it would have been maybe even a little easier to get behind if that would have been portrayed a little more up front. So I don't think that it's much to ask for folks to be able to have time
to do what they want with their property, and that's all I have, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have staff response to public comment.
So I'm looking at the road classification, I just wanna make sure that it's potentially I misspoke. Gerald's telling me it is a major arterial. What is the right of way width of that, Gerald? It's in. So in the meantime, just a couple of. Okay, so. A couple of things. So specifically, where to start? So for one, the letter that we discussed at the last meeting, one of the reasons that I didn't feel like a letter was necessary was specifically because the island annexation provisions will not apply specifically east of the, Corvallis Road. I think that that's important because you couldn't even use these provisions to force an annexation at this point. You would need to annex additional property to actually get a boundary to surround it. That is going to take some time, and it's not something that's in the works right now, right? That's part of the reason why I didn't think that a letter was necessary once I realized, no. Island annexation is not possible, it's not feasible. If an island annexation were to occur in the future, which is not even possible at this point, east of Corvallis Road. At that point, the people could ask for potentially up to 10 years to extend the effective date of that annexation. That's in ORS 222.7505. So they could ask for that at that point. Since this is not annexing those properties, I would argue that using that provision to push back a date of an annexation is not, it's not something that we could do. As for things like the orderly development of the urbanization of the growth boundary, this is specifically to ensure orderly development of the growth boundary. This is specifically why we want to do this, because we've seen how instances working with the county has not provided orderly development. So that's why we've annexed Talmadge Road 13, we've annexed Striker Road, we've annexed Gun Club Road. This is not just about Corvallis Road. That being said, we do have a project along Corvallis Road. We do have a water line project along Corvallis Road. So we're annexing all of the roads within the growth boundary specifically to encourage ease of use for us and people who will develop in the future. But Corvallis Road is an important road because we do have a water line project. We are trying to do a water project along the road. Gerald, would you like to speak to that at all?
Do you have any questions about Hoffman? Okay, so this is just about Corvallis Road. The whole reason why we were doing this is because Corvallis Road is having a water line installed down to the new water treatment plant. Part of the funding for that project is federal funding. One of the requirements of federal funding is do you own the property? If you don't, you have to jump through a whole bunch of paperwork hoops and also get sign off from the agency that does. Which is the whole point of why we were moving forward with this. Along with all of the other roadways, which is part of what Fred was talking about for the orderly development. So they're only dealing with one agency. Doesn't matter if you're the property owner or if you're a developer coming in, if you wanna do something to your property, isn't it easier to go to one agency than have to bounce between two different agencies that might not be saying the same thing? So the advantages of doing this for Corvallis Road is one, water line, dealing with the federal grant of that water line. The potential in the future, because I've heard a lot of complaints since I've been here about there's no sidewalk along Corvallis Road. If we don't own it, we can't go after a federal grant to help us pay for it. If we get a federal grant paid for it, we pay 10.27%, the feds pick up the rest of it. That's a pretty good deal. But I can't apply for it, Sean can't apply for it if we don't have the roadway in our possession. There's potential for speed reduction, because we've had complaints about speeds on Corvallis Road. I can't do anything about it because we don't own the road, it's a county road. If it comes under our jurisdiction, then I can request a speed study from the Department of Transportation. And if it comes back as yes, it needs a lower speed, then the state traffic engineer would issue a speed order for that roadway lowering the speed limit. I can't do it, you can't do it, the state traffic engineer has to do it. It also allows us to move forward with a project that is in our master plan to create an all-way stop at the intersection of Main River and High Street. One of the reasons why you see traffic backed up all the way across the bridge is because the north-south traffic is free flow and everybody else has to wait. Well, at peak hour traffic, you can't get the traffic off of the bridge. If you put an all-way stop in there, it allows people coming from Salem westbound to turn. They take their turns and you get the clearing off of there. I can't do that project easily when I have to deal with Marion County, Polk County, and the city, especially if I don't own two of those legs of the road or the intersection. The other one, yeah, we already talked about managed development without the county. The project that we have on Talmadge Road right now has been going on for 2.5, 3 years. It may break loose pretty soon, but had they only been dealing with one agency, that's the city, it probably would already have houses on it. We're trying to get rid of this log jam or roadblock to people's ability to do something. Now, as far as the properties that are on the islands, it doesn't matter to me if they annex in, okay? That's not why I'm doing this. The only reason people would annex in is because one, they want to, or two, they want services. They want water or sewer services, and when we're able to supply that, and they want them, their drain field fails, their well isn't good anymore. They have the ability to do that, but that's something that they would request of us. That's not something that we force on them. There are some properties out there that actually do have water service, but no sewer service. And they're grandfathered in because in the 1980s, I think it was the 80s, the water system used to be owned by Pacific Power. There are some water lines out there that they found, they use power conduit to send water. That's not what we do here. So we took over the water system, we took over all that too. So if they were in the county but had water, they were grandfathered in, but they actually, because they're in the county, they pay it at a higher rate because they're outside of city limits. And I think last time you guys talked about it's in our code, we can't supply services outside our city limits. That's true. I can't supply water to a property that's in the county, even if we annex this roadway and I put the water line in. And there's somebody that's in this island that says, well, you have water line there, I want water. I can't supply them water unless they annex into the city. So I'm not gonna force that. That's something that they want. I don't know what happened in the past with forced annexation, somebody said. I don't know anything about that. Fred has given all of the information as far as state statute for the east side, for the west side. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how you solve that problem, but I can tell you what I care about is getting the water line in and it being our roadway, so we can get past it.
So a question or clarification. For tonight's purpose, we are only annexing the road.
It's only public right of way, it's
Only
six,
for public right of way. Okay.
yes, it's 60 feet.
So future annexations of any property. The property owners would be notified, and at that point, they could then request, that would be a more appropriate place to request, can we get a 10-year? Right,
Yeah.
right, I mean, that would be the more appropriate place to separate property issues from road issues.
Right, and,
Okay.
and yes, the question about what's the width in the future for a major arterial. Major arterial standard section for right of way is 62 feet. So if someone was to come in and develop their property, they would annex in and they would be required to dedicate 1 foot of right of way in order to get their side of that future roadway section. The only time that it changes is where you have a left turn pocket. The left turn pocket would typically be required at where Mount Per extension. You have a minor collector and a major collector, minor arterial and a major arterial coming together. You'd have left turn pockets basically on all legs. So when a development came in, they would be required the full width is 74 feet. So that's 7 feet. But it's only for a certain distance and then it tapers back down to 1 foot. Does that make sense?
I don't think we're gonna be able to assuage all the residents' concerns. But it wouldn't be reasonable, and this may have been covered under Gerald's comments, and if they are included verbatim in the minutes, can we say that, and Gerald said this, can we say that we will not force annexation, but that only voluntary annexations will be considered for that area? I think I heard Gerald say that, but can we say that legally?
Or do we have the authority to say that? It's not something that I would recommend. And if it's something that you would like to do, then I would recommend that you with this open, we take this to our attorneys and we run through that process.
Because the problem with this is if we as people who pay city taxes wonder, because I was under the impression when I'm sitting here, so I apologize, that the yellow strip in this drawing was all we were trying to annex. And then Gerald says that we're only annexing 62 feet. So where did I mess up there?
No, the yellow is the existing right of way, which is 60 feet. And that's all we're annexing. The question before is how wide is the future road? And that's why I said it would be 62 feet in the future, but only would come into account if someone annexed and developed the property, but they have to dedicate right of way. All you're looking at right now is the existing roadway, which is 60 feet wide, and annexing that 60 feet.
So then my statement is, as people who pay taxes and independents, why would we want to maintain a huge property or this Corvallis Road? What if someone came in and complained and said, why are we maintaining Corvallis Road? Hopefully not to the standards we maintain 5th Street or 6th Street, but hopefully we maintain it better. Why would the houses who benefit from that maintenance have to pay taxes?
Your property taxes don't pay for road maintenance.
That I don't pay for public works.
Your property taxes don't pay for road maintenance. Road maintenance is 100% funded through gas tax. And every city is allocated gas tax by the state.
I guess my question is, been thinking a lot about this and listening to a lot of opinions. I guess my question is, I understand the appropriate concern, and understand that the property owner's concerns are skipping a step here. That's what the city's response is. We're skipping a step. We're not where you think we are. It's really the problem. But as a council, can't we think about it in a way of saying, sure, we won't commit to a letter now, but as individual councils, we're paying attention to this. And we're remembering, right? We're remembering that this concern came up and that if this comes, we'll take that under consideration, right? That these folks came to us, they shared their concerns, they spent multiple evenings with us. Clearly they're motivated, clearly they have real concerns. Maybe that's the best we got. I understand the city manager, the staff's concerns around the precedent of skipping ahead. But I really feel these folks concerns, so I guess I'm thinking out loud and communicating with my colleagues about this.
So you're saying let the public record stand, essentially?
Yeah, that we have these letters, we have these families who shared those letters in the public record. I know if I'm on council, I'm definitely paying attention to the future of this road. I am intrigued about the west side. We're hearing a lot from staff about the east side. People are concerned about the west side. And I do have questions, but I also, our job is we have a professional staff who are experts in these areas and they're very clear with us, their perspective. And so it's kind of where I'm at. And I wish I had more of an answer for folks.
I have a question on one thing. Mrs. Lewis brought up the point that she feels that the city owns property adjacent to her property specifically, and that's on the east side. What does the city have to say in response to what she said?
I'm not sure what the question is.
So she said that her property's on, I don't wanna speak for you, but if I'm mistaken.
So I got it.
She said that her property's on the east side, it cannot be annexed because Fred said you cannot annex it on the east side because it has to be surrounded by city-owned property. She says her property is surrounded by city-owned property, so her property could be.
Right, so yeah, it's true, so the city owns right of way, it's the old rail, right of way or something on the east side of the site. Now, it's not the specific thing in ORS 222.750 talks specifically about right of way cannot constitute more than 25% of a boundary. Right, and so in this instance, it's right of way that forms the western boundary. City boundary is definitely on the eastern, or on the eastern side. City owned land is definitely on this eastern side of the site. The western side, the right of way could not constitute a boundary to form an island. So, and real quick, just about this, because I haven't addressed the west side, but the west side is the west side, if the city were to force annexation under ORS 222.750, it would be the same exact process. There'd be a public hearing, and at that point, the west side could specifically ask for 3 to 10 years.
And that could be done right in the midst of a public hearing rather than having to go to the county.
Absolutely.
I guess my final concern or comment is, we can't predict the future, and I think that's what everyone, whether you're, whichever side you're on, we all, I think, kind of want to know, well, what are the development plans, what could happen, and we don't know, right? We don't know what property owners are gonna do with their individual parcels. We don't know what future councils could do, whether that's 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, if we're still on council, if other people are on council. So there's a lot of unknowns around that, but we do have a process in place through both our planning commission codes, land use. I'm a little more reassured knowing that we are only looking at the roadway, and if any land use action in the future, whether that's 6 months from now, 6 years from now, there is a process in place that residents will also get notified and will have the ability to provide feedback and comment. Do we have any further questions of staff? All right, at this point, I will now close the record and hearing. And this is a decision item, an action item, we do need to make a decision tonight.
I'm moving to adopt option A, which is take testimony, eventually close the public hearing, once the testimony has been heard, a related council bill to adopt the annexation would be considered as part of the later agenda item at the meeting.
Second, now.
So we have a motion by Council Crowe, second by Council Morton.
Where's that motion at?
Staff report. Oh, I'm not sure, I'm looking at it on the iPad, so I don't know if it's saying, I don't think it's saying
On the paper, I believe it's page 50.
motion, discussion.
Yeah. I'm still, would like people to have the opportunity to come speak on this again. I think we brought up issues that weren't completely clarified again. We brought up things that were being omitted, and we brought up things that are pretty and provide a lot of ambiguity in it. The major roadway, I think, is a concern. I think the adoption of sidewalks is a concern. I think while we're not supposed to look at past experiences, I think things that have happened to the Hill family that established this town makes me have concerns about where we're moving forward with this, and I just want to make sure this problem is fully heard on by the citizens and the committee. And I just hope, you know, the questions are asked or like, we didn't know the Lewis's home was surrounded, you know, like little things like this that, you know, maybe you could bring to light more things in the future. So for those reasons, I'm gonna be a new one.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Ford,
Aye.
Councilor Morton,
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis,
Aye.
Councilor Boisvert.
Aye.
Councilor Roden, opposed, Councilor Source.
Hey,
So that closes the public hearing and first page of the item.
Clarify, this would be agenda item 719. Okay, thank you. All right, so this would be now moving on to new business item 7.1.
Yeah, so what item 7.1 is essentially the council bill to pass the ordinance related to the public hearing that you folks just heard. It is included in your packet, of course, I can't find the page either. On page 75. So yeah, basically what we're looking for here is, it would be a first reading, if it passes unanimously in the first reading, it would be then a second reading, and then a third reading. Are there any questions of me?
I move to approve Council Bill 2025-03 to adopt AX 2025-01. The title, the text of which is contained in the council packet and read the proposed ordinance for the first time.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Horton and a second by Councilor Ford. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call.
I have a question, I'm sorry. Is this annex? So the Council Bill Annex 2025-01 is different than Council Bill 20-2503, or are the numbers wrong?
Annex 2025-01 is the annexation. Part of it, not the council bill.
Oh, sorry, thank you, that's what.
All right, roll call.
Councilor Soares?
Aye.
Councilor Roden? Opposed. Councilor Boisvert?
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis?
Aye.
Councilor Morton?
Aye.
Councilor Ford?
Aye.
So it passed, but it was not unanimous. I can read the title and then come back at the next meeting for the other part.
Yep.
So it's an ordinance declaring roadways annexed to the city of Independence and stating an effective date. We'll bring back part 2 to the next meeting.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to other new business 7.2, we are moving into liquor license applications.
And anyways. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilors. In your packet, you should have 2 different liquor license applications. Which one do you want me to start with first?
That is the first one.
Rochereal, okay. You have all the information in front of you, so I'm not gonna dig into it too deep, but I will go through the background real quick, because I know we have some new people, and it's a good reminder. So in 2020, our city adopted resolution number 20-1541, which establishes criteria for screening liquor license applications. The police department was assigned the task to do the initial review of each of these liquor licenses, and then the police department completes a staff report on those findings for city council, which you have here in front of you. This is a super simple one. Grocery outlet has sold, the new owners are seeking a liquor license to continue operations as they have been in the past. The background was done on the new owners and nothing was found of concern. So the staff recommendation is that you move forward with the approval of the above liquor license.
I move to recommend the approval of the above liquor license request.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Roden and a second by Boisvert. Any additional questions?
I just want to say, I'm really sad to see David Sherry leave. They done a great job.
No, it's finished. It seemed like it was a really short time.
Yeah, they're retiring, and I understand that the new owner is the one who owns Grocery Outlet Dallas.
And
No, I think it's 30, was it 30?
yeah, listen to
Was it Dallas? Sorry, it's been a while since I've done this.
but they own other outlets.
Yes, local.
In both Dallas and Newburgh, okay.
All right, any further discussion? That we have roll call?
Councilor Ford?
Aye.
Councilor Wood?
Aye.
Councilor Willis?
Aye.
Councilor Boisvert?
Aye.
Councilor Roden? Aye. Councilor Soares?
Aye. Okay. Moving on, and this is very similar, the A1 Market. At the corner of Gian Drive and Highway 51 also has sold. The new owners are coming in and same thing, they're just requesting a liquor license to be able to continue the service like they have since the A1 Market. A few years back. Are there any questions about that one?
I move to recommend the approval of the liquor license request.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Councilor Roden and a second by Councilor Soares. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Soares?
Aye.
Councilor Roden? Aye. Councilor Boisvert?
Aye.
Councilor Martin Willis?
Aye.
Councilor Morton?
Aye.
Aye.
Every time.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, we're ready for our financial report.
Wow, thank you. Madam Mayor, members of council. Yeah, I think I'm using the microphone, I figured it out. So,
It's that time again. We've completed Q3 of our fiscal year a couple of months ago, but because of the meeting schedules, it took us a while to get you here. So, you have in your packet the report. I'll just touch on a couple of highlights as we go through. The public safety fee has kicked in. We're seeing collections come in. You know, as you understand, we bill for the month prior, and then the collections come in, and that kind of explains the steep slope of that curve, if you will. We're anticipating about 400,000 in total collections this fiscal year for the public safety fee. Feel like I can't get this thing lined up right. Utility rate revenues. This is kind of a continuing item in the fiscal or in the financial report. You'll see the 6-month receivable on the next page there, and it's consistent with the same period last year. No surprises. And we constantly monitor this each month, several different statistics, just a few of which we've highlighted here to show you that things are pretty steady. The next item, the independent audit of the city's financial statements for fiscal year 23-24. So just for context, for those that may be online, we finished fiscal year 23-24 almost a year ago in June of 24. We're about to finish fiscal year 24-25, and we're budgeting for fiscal year 25-26. So there's a lot of time span there. So our financial statements were audited as they are every year. The auditors identified some technical compliance issues in our financial statements that were technical violations of local budget law. And I've addressed those in an attachment to this report, so I'll get to those in just a second. Also provided you a debt summary as part of this financial report because that was something that the council had been asking for. Just to summarize what the original amount of the debt was, what principal and interest payments were made during the 24-25 fiscal year, that's our current fiscal year, and what would be the ending balance on those debt instruments at the end of this fiscal year, so at the end of next month, the end of June. So that's in there for you. And then along those same lines, I gave you, or our finance team gave you a summary of the interfund loans that are outstanding. The one there at the top, the general fund, with some changes that we've just made in the budget, with the budget committee, that top line number changes a little bit. Instead of seeing 502,159 come in this fiscal year, we're going to see 202,159 come in this fiscal year. The final maturity will be 2034-35. But the rest of those, you'll see that a lot of them will drop off at the end of fiscal year 28. And the rest of them will be gone by fiscal year 31, except for that jump. The final item in this report was a summary of the Minet receivable. So currently, the city has bonds outstanding relating to Minet that total $7.865 million. Minet makes payments of principal and interest, or makes a payment to the city equal to the debt service payments on those bonds. So it's just a pass through. We don't put any money into those bonds at all. It comes directly from Minet and goes out. The thing so the other loan that the city has outstanding that I guess it's a loan. So we paid debt service for Minet in the past when they couldn't afford to make their debt payments. We kept track of all of that money. It's about $4.1 million that they owe us. They are currently making payments on that to us as scheduled. There is a debt service plan
and they are meeting that plan. We have budgeted for them to continue to make those payments. And they will, they're all intents and purposes indicate that they will continue to make those payments. Counselor Ford?
So the 7.8 million is different from the 4 point something.
Correct.
So there's two actual payments they make us, okay?
Correct, sorry, yeah, I could have been more clear on that in this report. Okay, so now I'll jump over to the attachment that deals with the findings from the auditors, and I'm not gonna read this to you because it's late. So I'll touch on the highlights again. The first one, it just has to do with how we identify reserves and reserves for future payments in our budget document. We are not gonna change anything in the budget document because it helps the people on the budget committee and the public who look at the budget understand what we're doing. When we prepare our resolution to adopt the budget and that information gets filed with the county, we will force those amounts into ending fund balance, which is consistent with Oregon local budget law. That was where we misstepped previously. So we'll fix that. Finding number 2, budgeting the urban renewal projects fund. Ooh, that got loud. So urban renewal projects fund used to do a lot of different things. Now it's basically a debt service fund. So we're going to budget it as a debt service fund, and that takes care of this comment as well from the auditors. Finding number 3, budgeting for interfund loans. There's a lot of different places in the financial statements you can put things. This was a landscaping issue in that we put it in the wrong spot on the financial statements. It was all there, we just put it on the wrong lines. So we're cleaning that up and we will fix that as well with the next round of financial statements. Okay, finding number 4, the budget over expenditures. I've touched on each one of these by fund and by program. What we did was, so when the budget's adopted, that sets the maximum level, for example, that the finance department can spend for the year. It's possible that through budget changes, that maximum amount can be adjusted. What happened was at the end of the year, the auditors review this stuff and our actual expenditures in the department exceeded what our budget authority was. We try not to let that happen, but it happened. So they call us out on it. And what we've done to try and fix that now is we're paying attention, paying more attention as we go, and you will see a budget adjustment come to the council in May, this month, for a budget, or I guess it's in June now, I'm sorry. We were gonna bring it to this meeting and we just couldn't get it done. So it'll come to the June 10th meeting that will adjust the budget appropriations for where we project we could potentially be over budget in various departments and programs. We don't take this lightly, and I don't want to give the impression that we do. We pay attention to this stuff. So we will work to keep our spending in line with the budget, and if we need to bring back a budget change to you, we'll justify it and we'll bring it to you, and you have the authority to either accept or deny it. And that basically, each one of the budget over expenditures is highlighted and explained, you know, kind of how we got there and what we're gonna do about it going forward. Are there any questions?
Question, I seem to recall, because this was from the 23-24 fiscal year.
Right.
Did we do some software updates? Did we switch platforms or something like that? Am I?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, okay, never mind.
I also think one of the important phrases in all 3 of these sightings is that the overall fund was not overspent.
Yeah, in the general fund, that's correct, and it basically, but we don't budget that way, you know, we don't budget for the fund as a whole, we budget by department. So, but yes, you're correct.
I have a question on page 119 of our debt summary. You said that Minnet were just a pass through, they pay their bills, it just comes through us, it pays their debt. But it looks like for the 2020 Minnet FC, they haven't made anything but interest payments.
There were no scheduled principal payments to be made on that debt until the 25-26 fiscal year. So they are exactly as designed when the bond documents were drawn up.
And do they anticipate having any problems paying that?
No, they don't. And
So,
I met with the Minnet folks to review their budget. They meet with the finance directors from Independence and Monmouth. We had that meeting last week. And while they are a private enterprise, so they didn't send me information, because if they send me information, it becomes public information and they're not required to do that. They did, share their cash flow forecast for the next 5 to 10 years. We reviewed those, we talked about those, and I have no problems with what they're forecasting.
that's good to hear, but I have one more question. So it appears that at the balance as of June of this year, they'll still owe nearly $8 million in debt, and in the next page, that's a different $4.1 million that we paid in the past that they still owe us. So
That's
the
correct.
combined debt
It's
is.
about $12 million that they owe us. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Now for the part I've been waiting for.
I know, we're kind of excited about this stuff.
Gerald, are you so proud of us at this moment?
We'd love to hear from you, Gerald.
I'm really excited that we're moving forward with this now, because for the past, how long have I been here? 3.5 years or more. I've been getting complaints about it stinks. Why did the lagoon stink? Well, simple answer was they hadn't been cleaned out in 50 years. So a couple of years ago, we cleaned out lagoon number 2. Took 1,800 dry tons. I think I gave a cross reference of how many Honda Accords that would stack up to.
Yes.
That's great. This next one that we're doing, the one that's before you, is anticipated to take out 2,500 tons. And that's because the raw sewage that flows into the plant has been getting dumped primarily into Lagoon 1 for 50 years. So we're cleaning it out. And how we do that is we advertise a request for proposals on March 5th. We closed the proposals on April 16th, and the city received a total of 4 proposals. That's not unusual. This is a specialized process. It's not like any contractor.
Question, by proposal, you mean bid?
No, they're separate. There's construction bids, and then you can also do construction proposals. Because they're not building anything, this is considered a service contract, so it's under proposal for ORS. So we received 4 proposals. They were reviewed, and the tabulations are in front of you for the scoring. American Process Group was recommended as the proposer in accordance with ORS and OARs. The city issued a notice of intent to award to all of the proposers, and we received no protests on the scoring. So staff is recommending that you select option 1 so we can move forward with removing biosolids at the wastewater treatment plant.
I authorize the city manager to execute a contract with American Process Group.
I think what she means is she moves to award the biosolids removal contract to the American Process Group in the amount of $2,794,878.97 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and any change orders within the agreement.
Whatever.
Yeah, what she said.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Counselor Roden and a second by Counselor Source. Any discussion?
I do have a question. How quick, can you move forward on it after we say yes?
Please, quickly,
Yes, so next steps, once you award it, I put together the contracts, I send it to them, we get all the contracts back, we have a pre-construction meeting. Their schedule is to mobilize July 14th, and they'll be completely done before the end of September.
The celebration.
And I have,
We can declare it.
This is the first time you all agree on a festival, it's a miracle.
I do have kind of a quirky question. Are the solids, are they forensically analyzed or not? I mean, are there, what if there's a bunch of human bones in there?
let's don't do
It is
that.
getting late.
Yes. There's
Some of
not.
us have meat.
We, the short answer is we have to test everything because it's going to a landfill and the landfill requires it. And we did it last time and they said, good to go.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this?
I guess that'd be a great ghost story, ghost one story.
That's where she's going.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Mark Willis.
Aye.
Counselor Boisvert.
Aye.
Counselor Roden. 4 ayes. Counselor Source. Unanimous.
And everyone who lives around the wastewater treatment plant or downwind of it, thank you. Thank you.
All the time.
We all, yeah.
It's torture.
All right, we have one final agenda item.
We do. I will try to move quickly because it is late and we've all been here a while. As you know, we are looking at some budget situations that could result in Independence Days going away. There was a request
Next year.
Next year, yes, next year, not this year. This year's going to go, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be wonderful, everybody's going to love it. Next year, we're discussing. And there was a request that we potentially bring an ad hoc committee. After discussion with the mayor, we went ahead and provided you with this staff report and resolution to move forward with the ad hoc committee. That ad hoc committee would be for about 3 months with the opportunity to extend it an additional 3 months by motion and vote of the council. There would be 5 members, 3 counselors and 2 interested members. And the purpose is to provide the council with a recommendation on the future of Independence Days, including consideration of alternative management models for organizational members. In there, you will see the scope of work, and that is not all inclusive, it's just an indication. And then appointment of members. After discussion, there were 2 that Miranda Garrison and Vidal Pena. You'll see that Miranda, or Ms. Garrison is interested in serving, and Mr. Pena is, we're still waiting, so that is pending. Council members, Councilor Boisvert, who is interested in serving, Councilor Morton, who is interested in serving, and Councilor Roden, who requested additional time to consider.
And if I might clarify, Mr. Pena is interested, I think he just wanted to make sure he wasn't being a snap this week, so. I think he would appreciate knowing how many meetings there might be. So, but he's interested. Any questions for staff?
You have a question, so will Courtney be a part of this group?
So Courtney will not be a part of the group, but as the ad hoc board, you'll have access to Courtney and to Sean and to any other staff that are involved in Independence Days.
All right, we have a motion. It's an action item.
So moved.
It's always free.
Okay, fine. Typically, one approving the formation of the ad hoc board for Independence Days as proposed and confirmed the mayor's recommended appointment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Source, second by Boisvert. Any further discussion?
I'm assuming Vidal's gonna say yes, but if he doesn't, we have a backup.
I guess my discussion is I really hope that, I think my colleagues who are serving on it and are considering serving on it, and And I really hope that this is a good first step to solving the challenge, and I hope that the public is really involved in this process. We definitely heard from them. So I hope this is the chance for our community to get involved and try to find a solution to the problem. So I'm looking forward to being part of it for everybody that's watching.
All right, roll call.
Counselor Court?
Aye.
Counselor Morton?
Aye.
Counselor Martin Lewis?
Aye.
Counselor Palmer?
Aye.
Counselor Roden? Aye. Counselor Source?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes, so now we did a motion, oh, sorry, well, do we have any council announcement?
I have none. I just wanna say that this was the first time, which is gonna be surprising, that I went to the Touch a Truck. And I brought a bunch of little kids down there, and it was just an amazing experience. And I got this cool video of all these kids watching the helicopter land, and although I was a little frightened by the whole thing, they thought it was amazing, and so I just appreciate everybody who did that. I thought it was really cool.
And I have an announcement as well.
On Friday 13th in June is the last day of school celebration being put on by the Independence Downtown Association. I know that there is an effort to get all kinds of agencies represented there as they were in the last 2 years. And there will be endless giveaways to kids. No child comes down and has to pay for anything, including Kona Ice, which I guess is a big deal. I haven't had it before.
Just for kids though? Is the Kona Ice just for kids?
If the parents are with the children, you have to validate yourself with a child.
I have many.
Okay, and I just wanted to say that Central High School is putting on a play, it's called Percy Jackson. And it will be this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. And there's also a matinee on Saturday at 2 p.m. And my son is in it, so I'm a little opinionated on that matter, but I think it's an exceptional play. I've been going to community theater pretty much my whole adult life, and this high school play is right on par with anything you'll see at a community theater. It's really good.
Vicki McCullen mentioned earlier, the Walden Hills that's coming to town. There are throughout our communities posters with a QR code on there. That QR code will take you directly to the site where you can sign up to volunteer, you can sign up as a sponsor, you can just donate. So this is a really, really big deal. 30 cities throughout the United States. Independence is the only city in the state of Oregon being visited this year. So it is, it's a really big deal. And I would encourage folks to volunteer or donate what you can.
Buy a t-shirt.
If you can find one.
Yeah. Don't reopen the sales.
Okay,
Send it like.
okay. Earl went to buy those and they were sold out, so.
I have one announcement that Woo is having their block party this weekend on
Yes.
Saturday. So that's a fun way to go check out campus and all kinds of activities going on. And I believe it's also the Asian American Pacific Islander celebration in the park at Monmouth. So 2 for 1. You will have an opportunity.
That's why our interest was.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other announcements? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, council.